Hello, Sterling Scholar judges. This is Taiji Harada for the Computer Technology subject. Today, I will be showing you my program, which I called High Rollers. To start with, I will show you how the program runs as its own separate executable file. So if I go into this folder, which my solution code is in, and I go into the bin folder, and inside this folder I can go to the debug, which shows my executable file for this program. I can open this up, which will create a window with what I have programmed in here. So this is what the High Rollers program looks like. It's pretty simple on the surface, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So the basics of how this code runs is there are 2 players, and each player starts out with $5,000. This game will alternate between each of the 2 players' turns. It will start with player 1's turn, and they can choose to increase or decrease their bet. And it does it in increments of 500. It won't let the player go above 5,000, and it will not let the player go less than 500. After the player decides to pick a bet, they can choose to press the roll button. And when this is pressed, digital dice will be theoretically rolled, and they will get 2 values. And depending if the roll is odd or even, they will either lose or win their bet. In this case, and in this game, the player wants to get odds. So since this player got 4, which is an even number, and they chose a bet of 1,000, player 1 lost that much money, $1,000, and now they are down to just $4,000. After this, it's now player 2's turn, and they can also decide what bet placement they want to do, and they can do the exact same thing player 1 did. In this case, they got an odd number, which is 5, and won their bet of $1,000. So in this game, the goal is to either reach $20,000, or the other way a player can win is if the other player reaches 0. A few special cases have been programmed into this program. If a player rolls a 7, they get 3 times their bet value added to their score. Or if they roll snake eyes or 2 1s, they lose 5 times their bet amount. So you really don't want to get snake eyes in this game. So we can continue to keep going. I'll just increase the bet amount so it happens quicker. Player 1's turn, they roll, and oh, they got a 10, so they lost all of their money. They are now in the negative, and player 2 wins. I kind of want to show you the other cases. So if I close that and reopen in the game, it restarts. Each player has $5,000. I'll turn it up a bit. And oh, here's the special case. Player 1 rolled a 7, and they got a lot more money. And it displays a special text up here too, saying wow. And if we keep rolling, we can see an odd, even, player loses money, even, odd, and this will keep going. They got a 7 again, so they got more. Hoping we can show a snake eyes. You can see how that works. In this case, we didn't get it. Player 2 lost. We can open it up again, see if we can get snake eyes to show how much that can hurt. Let's see if we can get it. Oh, here it is. Ouch. A special text case is provided. and player 1 lost 5 times their bet amount. Pretty painful. Okay, time to open up the code so you can kind of see what goes into a program like this. So to open up the solution code, you just need to go back out of this folder and select the file with the solution file type. This will open up Visual Studio, which is Microsoft's programming software, and after it loads, you'll be able to see all of the different code I've done. Okay, so it's opened. We can go into our form. In this case, it's just called form1.cs. You can rename things so you can navigate your files and code easier, but we can just double click this, and this will open up our form, which is where the coder can see where all of their objects are placed within this form. This is where the coder can create all of their buttons and the different interactive graphics. In this case, before or when the program is initialized, all of these images are actually just invisible until one of the players pulls a button. And then on each side, one of these random images is picked in order to simulate a dice roll. And a random picture is picked on both sides, which randomizes this. But when you're coding the program, you need to see where all these images are. So they're all visible right now, but as soon as the program runs, these are all turned invisible until the code says that they need to be visible depending on what numbers they rolled. From this view, the player can see and do all the sorts of different things they need to. All of this is customizable. Here in the properties area, you can see that each of these is named and that different options can be selected to change and customize this however you want. In this case, this is just a label. It's the title of the game, and it also updates on what the players rolled. So it'll say wow if they roll a 7, or nice roll if they roll odd, etc. And here in the properties panel, the coder can manage things like fonts. If I wanted to, I can make this main title head a cooler font. We can do this font. We can do bold. We can do it bigger. Down here, you can see how what it'll look like, and how it's displayed. You click OK, and you can see this is how the coder would update something like this. And they can also change the color. So if they wanted to, they can pick nice colors in order to change it from just the boring old text I have used there. So we can change it to something green, something light green, and make it a lot more interesting to look at. In this case, I'd probably want to increase the font size a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. And the player could get something like this. Alright, time to look at our actual code. So you can either press F7 or just right click and click View Code. And this will open up the backbone of the program. Because of course, in just the form, this is all just looks. It's only when you actually start programming for each of these buttons that this program becomes usable. And in my portfolio, one can see that I have all the code listed there. But if you want another look, I'll kind of just scroll through this real quick. And this is where everything can be managed or changed to how the player likes. For example, if the player gets a bad roll, I can change this text to say something else. Maybe like, evens, or you can just change the text of however you want. And all these if statements is what kind of controls how much money the player loses or wins and what's displayed. You can see here, if the player's money, if their roll total is equal to 2, which is snake eyes, you can see that their money, which is a variable stored as player 1 money, will equal what their money was before minus how much they betted, and this variable stored as just bet money times 5. This is what shows that they lose 5 times their bet if they roll snake eyes. And it's the same thing right here. They get 2 times their bet amount. I think I accidentally said 3 before, but you can change this to 3 if you wanted. But they will get 2 times their bet money if their roll total equals 7. They roll a 7. And there's a whole bunch of other ways the code works. For the sake of time, I won't go into all of it, but there's a lot of cool stuff. We have a randomizer variable up here, which randomizes the roll totals, and depending on what roll the player gets, certain images in that form will become visible. But when the program was first ran, all of the pictures properties will be set to false. So this is what causes them to be visible. And later, of course, once it's rolled again, they will become invisible, so it'll reset, and then new dice will be displayed. Lastly, I'd like to show you how the program is debugged and where the programmer can see how well their programming is running. So after you've gotten a certain amount of code done, or this is good to check after you've gotten all your code done, I kind of like to do it progressively to check each part, make sure the buttons are working properly. That's when I like to debug the program, but the programmer can press start, which will run the program within Visual Studio. And here, just like in the desktop application, the person using this can test their program. So in this case, you can see that the text up here has been updated to be from what I switched it to, and the player can change their bet money. It seems to be all working. The rules are working. Perfect. And this is where you can check how the program works exactly. And if you really wanted to, you can change the values and just really customize this game to however you want it. If there's any bugs, it will pop up in over here. It will point you to what line they think that an error has been made. You can make any fixes, and you can see how well your program works. Anyway, that's all I'd like to show you for this High Rollers program. I hope you enjoyed seeing my thought process and how I went about making it. And I hope you've learned a little bit more about me and a little bit more about my programming. Thank you so much, and I wish you the best.